Hi, I'm Paul Russell Garrett, and I'm going to be reading from Erik and the Gods, Journey to Valhalla by Danish author Lars-Henrik Olsen. I'm going to be starting from chapter 2, where Erik has been whisked away from Earth by Thor in order to save the Viking gods from certain destruction. One of the reasons I chose this book was the way that the wonderful and wacky Norse mythology is interwoven into this simple children's story. Chapter 2, Journey to Asgard. Who are you? Erik asked. Thor, the man answered. Thor? Erik looked at him awkwardly, still in shock. Where are we going? Home. Far from here, Thor answered. Don't you have any other clothes than that? Those thin rags will be useless. Don't you have any leathers? Erik looked down at his clothes. I have a jacket and some thick trousers. Should I grab those? Yes. Are we going on the roads in that? Erik asked and pointed at the chariot. The goat stamped at the ground impatiently. No, we are flying. Now go get changed so we can leave. I don't want to stay here any longer than necessary. Erik did as Thor instructed him, climbed out the window and walked over to the chariot. Hop in and hold on tight, Thor said. This chariot can really fly. Just as Erik settled in at the bottom of the chariot, it started moving. The wheels screeched and sparks flew from the iron wheels as the chariot thundered off. The goats snorted heavily, buckled down, and pulled with all their might. The chariot creaked and groaned before soaring off faster and faster, racing toward the heavens. Where are we going? Erik repeated. Home, as I said before, Thor answered, peering ahead into the clouds. Where is home? Asgard, of course, Thor answered with irritation. Where is that? Certainly is much you do not know, Thor answered and turned to Erik. The goat seemed to know the way back, and Thor relaxed the reins. He sat down next to Erik, took off his iron gloves, and scratched his beard pensively. He said again. Erik peeked over the edge of the chariot and looked down with the earth now far below him. He could see the city lights and the street lights winding across the landscape like shiny strings of pearls. You have much light, though it is artificial, Thor muttered to himself. What's it like in Asgard, then? Erik asked as he turned to Thor. Asgard is an entirely separate world which, well, it lies in the middle of your world, and that is where the gods live, the Aesir, as we're called. Thor shook his head in dismay. It was going to be difficult to explain everything. He sighed. Have you heard nothing of us? Yes, of course, Erik reassured him. Well, a little, anyway, and it was a long time ago. I guess I wasn't paying much attention. I see, Thor frowned. He scratched his beard, glanced at Erik, and tried again. I think I will have to start from the beginning. Are you paying attention now? Yes, of course, Erik answered. Very well, then. In the beginning there was nothing. There was no earth, in any case. To the north was Niflheim, an immense world, dark, cold, and misty, and to the south was Muspelheim, a bright, hot, and fiery region. Between these two worlds was an enormous divide called Ginnungagap. Try saying that. Ginnungagap, Erik repeated. Do you hear the rhythm? Erik nodded and repeated the word to himself. Obviously something had to give, with all of that heat and cold. And indeed it did, Thor continued. In this cold and misty world there was a spring, the source of many great rivers. The rivers that flowed from there covered the north of Ginnungagap with enormous masses of ice and a freezing mist. The flames and the sparks from the south melted some of the ice, and so between these two extreme worlds it was as lovely as a warm summer's day. The drops of water that accumulated there became alive and formed a massive giant, a Jotun. He was called Ymir. The drops also produced an enormous cow named Audhumla. The cow provided Ymir with milk as nourishment, and the milk gave him incredible strength. While Ymir slept, he began to sweat. The drops under his arms turned into two giants, a male and a female, while the sweat from his legs created a son. He was a strange fellow, that Ymir, Thor muttered to himself. But that is where the Jotuns come from. Thank you.